right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Mashreq Sustainability Dialogues Webinar, the first of a series on the road to COP28, where we take a deeper dive into this massive push towards sustainability that we're seeing, of course, in the UAE, across the region and globally, trying to uncover some insights and intelligence that will help our stakeholders along their journey ahead. Today, we're tackling a very critical question, which is empowering all how to transform every employee into sustainability leaders. We're lucky to be joined here today with our special guest speakers, Manal Hassan, Group Chief Sustainability Officer of Elsewedy Electric and Vice Chairman of Elsewedy Electric Foundation, Hassan Ebrahim, Senior Vice President, Corporate Development and Sustainability at Yellow Door Energy, and of course, Florence Bulte, Chief Sustainability Officer at Chalhoub Group. Thank you all for joining the show. Florence, I just wanted to first kick off with you. This is a critical question that I imagine is on every organization's mind at the moment. Some are, of course, at the beginning of their journey, and some are farther along. But I just wanted to first kick off with you to get your opening comments on the overall critical question that we're tackling today.
Well, I mean, for us, our dream, we have, 15,000 people. And for us, our objective, actually, it's not a dream, but our objective is to have our 15,000 team members being a sustainability leader. So there are many ways we can do that. I believe we'll go through it. So the way you communicate, the way you foster a culture of sustainability, the skills you're looking for, the diversity of background, incentive you can look at. But the main thing is that sustainability, Chief Sustainability Officer at the end shouldn't be a position anymore, because sustainability should be really carried on by everyone in the company. That's for me, the future of where we're going to.
Just as a follow-up to that, and I think you touched on a good point, is that before you can start transforming every employee into a leader, you have to first define what sustainability means for your organization. Can you just walk us through the process of going through that, defining sustainability and the objectives for the overall organization?
For us,
Florence, yes.
So, for us, every business is different, but the very starting point is really going through a materiality study of what does it mean for us as a group. And for that, we have to involve internal and external stakeholders and getting the feedback, because it's a collaborative, I would say, journey. We need a diverse perception, we need diverse feedback, we need to make sure the sustainability points we are focusing on are relevant for our group, because it's so wide, like what I'm doing in terms of sustainability, I'm sure is different from what Manal is doing on a day-to-day basis, or what Hassan is doing. The strategy, the vision might be the same, but the day-to-day is very different. So I'm guessing the materiality study to make sure we identify the main point of focus which are relevant is crucial as a starting point, and of course that we engage all the people, all the stakeholders in our ecosystem.
Hassan, I just wanted to bring you in as well on that for your opening comments, but also touching on the point of course, essentially being born from the sustainability sector, from Yellow Door Energy, how you define sustainability as well from a top-down perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. And just building on Florence's opening comments, Yellow Door Energy is at the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of the size of our company. We're a very small company compared to the company Florence is the CSO for. We have about 160, 170 people in our organization. So I suppose the task of engaging everybody in sustainability is a little bit easier for us, right? Just given the volume of people being so much less. For us, the approach that I've taken in leading sustainability at Yellow Door is to structure our team almost like a working group, effectively, where we have members that are participants or they're members in different departments across the organization that are part of the sustainability team as well. So we have individuals from our commercial team, our engineering team, that all bring different perspectives to the sustainability topic, right? And as Florence rightly said, it's so broad, it's so nebulous, it cuts across so many different aspects of the business. But I think, creating sort of a silo of sustainability is really not the best way to approach it. I think having a more diverse group of people, different professionals with different backgrounds, really helps to kind of spread the idea across the workplace, I guess. And yeah, for us, as you pointed out, we are a sustainability company. We're a sustainable company in a sense. We provide sustainable energy solutions to other businesses to help them meet their objectives. So in the beginning of our sustainability journey, we found ourselves asking the question, do we actually need to do any of this stuff? Aren't we by definition sustainable? But we're not. We're clearly, right? And I think even being in the solar energy industry, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of being a holistic sustainability leader in terms of supply chain and diversity and all of these different aspects, right? These are all part of what it means to be sustainable. It's not just, environmental benefits, right? So there's a lot more to it than that.
Manal, I just want to bring you in as well for your opening comments. Of course, being a major power player in Egypt, sustainability as a definition is always constantly evolving. But just wanted to get your opening comments on the overall topic that we're addressing today and the path forward.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the invite. Elsewedy Electric is a listed company, and we have over 17,000 employees, and these are like our full-time employees. Our part-time, because we have projects, so we have a lot of project-based employee and temp employee. We started our sustainability journey 7 years ago, and as an economist, I was pretty much aware of all the dynamics and where the economies are going to go. I mean, 2030, the world is not going to know it, like capitalist or social or this. We're going to be either a sustainable economies or non-sustainable economies. So from the first day, I told our CEO that sustainability is not me. It has to be embedded in the DNA of every single employees. And actually, till today, my department is just me and one member, and that's it. And that member just helps me in, the data collection and the frameworks and so on. So the way we went about it is that we revised all of our policies, the S. We looked at it and we revised it because we are a global company based in Egypt. We work in Asia and in Africa and in Europe and in Latin America. So we wanted to make sure that all of our employees are on one measurement in terms of benefits and salaries and so on. And of course, this comes from the G, which is the governance. So once you have that as well in state, we trained our C-levels, we trained our board. We have, last year, we started to have an ESG climate risk committee in the board in order to have it as well top down. The way I did it is I wanted to make sure that the messages of our company is top-down approach and bottom-up approach until we reach our targets. I gave ownership of sustainability by training every single line of business, every single department from the beginning. I wanted them to own it. So I was like, if you're for the marketing department, if you want to do something for the company or marketing products, be aware of the environment, be aware of helping women. And if you're buying giveaways, for example, from women, then write on it that this is made with love from, these group of women down in Upper Egypt. So gradually but surely, it was a very, important journey for us, and it took us some time. And then we started to add the other. So looking at economic, environment, and social and governance. And here we put the economic at the beginning so that the people in the company must be aware that whatever they are doing, they are contributing positively or negatively on this. And you cannot succeed alone. So starting from 2 years ago, we started to work with our supply chain. Because at the end of the day, we have a huge manufacturing arm. We produce anything that has to do with cables and electrical products and anything that has to do with the energy sector. So we wanted to make sure that we will be able to maintain our suppliers, because of course you are all aware of the CBAM and the carbon border tax and carbon tax that will be, officially in all the countries by 2030. So we started to tell them that all of your activities will be for the livelihood of the company. You are a cornerstone in everything that we do at Elsewedy. And this year we're celebrating our 5-year journey. And we have like a quantitative, it's, KPIs are met. We are as well reporting on all milestones in the SDGs. I mean, being a global company, we are able to practice all the 17 SDGs. And we are as well educating right now heavily on the E, that it doesn't mean that Elsewedy is doing like a lot of renewable investment. This is called, the climate offset or the carbon offset, but it is not the decarbonization. So we are focusing now on projects from the beginning that their emissions are to be counted, where we can, decrease our emissions in order, to, of course, to achieve our E target. So yes, I do agree. But you know what? I disagree on something. You will always need a chief sustainability officer to gather all information and give you the result of hard work of the employees, especially in frameworks like CDP, EcoVadis, and Sustainalytics, and all the common frameworks.
I just wanted to take a step back in a sense, where you created a strategy. Congratulations on the 5-year journey. There's a lot that goes into it, ESG, sustainability. As someone who is in that space as a sustainability leader, you've created a strategy, but what recommendations would you give to other stakeholders on how to communicate that strategy to establish the buy-in that you've done? Every employee in their own education knows somewhat of sustainability, but it takes a lot of effort in terms of communicating that message from the top down. What would you recommend in terms of those first steps to implement that strategy and communicating it to employees to establish that buy-in, essentially?
It's transparency. The strategy of the company has to be always, communicated. You need to remind your employee. We at Elsewedy, we have sustainability emails, which always sends at least 2 or 3 emails, whether it's giving, tips, or whether it's if we have an update on our strategy, or if we have a new policy, benefit, whatever, we're always communicating. And we are very mindful as well that there are people that might not know how to read and write, people that might not, speak English, for example. So we always communicate in English and French and Arabic. And we have as well leaders in every, place, in one department, like you can have like at least 5 leaders. And they as well can go down to the laborers, to everyone, and tell them, there is this new benefit, or we're going to do this and that. It's transparency, communication. If people understand your strategy, we will all be working for one goal. Chicken in a farm, everybody's going, of course. But if everybody is aligned on it and you give ownership, I get people who are like just passionate about it after all these years, and they're like, I have this idea and I want to do this and this, and I'm like, let's study it, and we study it, and I give them the ownership to lead it. If they have a recycling opinion, if they have something that for efficiency, if they're aware of, like, they want to develop this little software for our employees that does it. Let people innovate. Let them be entrepreneurial within your company. Let them come up with ideas. Let them fail and succeed. It's okay to try something, and they will learn. They will learn in the process. I mean, I don't believe that if you try something and it fails, that it means you're a bad person. No, you learn by doing mistakes, and then you get on the right course. Definitely, it's transparency, communication, it's alignment, it's the CEO being right behind this, and the board being right behind the CEO. The CEO in his vocabulary is always using it and telling them, that he's proud that this company has decreased its carbon emission, and he's proud that this company has got the EPD, proud of the employees that did this, and so on. And every month you try to celebrate success, celebrate employees that have actually, done something this week or this month, or they got a certain award, or they finished a very difficult ISO, like the 14064 or 14067, which is very hard, and then you celebrate them. So it's communication and celebration and just being mindful of others' idea and be able to discuss it and study it together.
Florence, I also want to get your opinions on that in terms of the strategy and then, of course, communicating it from top down in order to establish that buy-in and, of course, embed that culture of sustainability. It's a bedrock before we start adding programs on top to upskill employees. What are your thoughts in terms of how to communicate the message, of course, being in that space in the best way to proceed forward?
Yeah, I mean, so I believe the tone of the top for sure is important, but if we look at the chronology also of the employee within the company, I think it's important to set the tone right at the onboarding time. And for us, we have, an onboarding training, which includes a module on sustainability. And funny enough, we have a lot of newcomers who are directly, reaching out to us and seeking how they can be involved, etc. So right from the beginning, as soon as the employee starts the journey, he knows or she knows that it's important for the company. Then obviously, so we have a different communication channel, adapting the language and the level of communication to each and every employee. Not to repeat what has been said, for us, what we've tried, which was quite successful, is gamification. So for example, when we issue a sustainability report, we would also build a communication campaign with a subject extracted from this report, but also have some quiz, have some kind of show, like we had a Sustain-O-Rama show where people can interact and play, and there will be some, some prize to win. So that's also this fun way of engaging people. I found this very successful to retain some message. To bounce on what Manal was saying, I think having a small sustainability team is a blessing, because then you leverage all the business units and you involve them into projects, and so it's a way to get them engaged and to communicate your objectives and maybe set some KPIs also, on which they can be rewarded on specific projects. So that, I think, is extremely important. You have the conceptual training. So we have a Chalhoub University platform with sustainability training, but this is not enough. I mean, we need to also engage our employees. So for us, we have the Leaders Impact Program, where we develop maybe 250 initiatives every year, and the initiatives are giving an opportunity for people to have a first-hand experience of what it means to protect the environment. Why is it important? And the program is also matching our sustainability strategy. So we need to have a bit of conceptual and a bit of really hands-on initiative, and any opportunity that the group has, where we have these 15,000 people. So for example, during the seminar of the group, always give some space for sustainability matter, so that people know through webinars, panel, discussion, video, but it's always present, even as a subliminal message, but always present, so that it's sticking in the head of our people.
In terms of the initiatives, of course, it's always people, planet, and profit when it comes to sustainability. Is the financial aspect of incentives there for employees yet, or is that still some ways away in a sense? Is that financial understanding of the ROI on sustainability, aligning with the sustainability journey of the company, is that also being embedded as well in that messaging and communication?
Yeah, so if you're asking me, yes, and through the project we are carrying on, for example, with our business unit, now we are our business model is quite complex, but let's say for our own concept, so concept brand that we have full control over, we do have sustainability KPIs linked to objectives and policies. So it is because we have a common plan, and let's say if I take a specific brand, they will have objectives, sustainability objectives linked to our overall strategy and KPIs linked to it. So that's the way it can be very well understood, and we can get people motivated and engaged. If you ask me, do I want more? I would say yes, because I would like to have everybody in the company to have KPIs on sustainability. Unfortunately, I would lie if I'm saying it's the case. It's not the case. It's more at maybe manager level or business unit level. But yes, I mean to work towards common objective is key to embed sustainability. So again, it's a journey, and we have a lot of competition when it comes to KPIs. But that's the best way. We found it quite effective to align everyone.
Hassan, you mentioned, of course, in your opening comments about having a diverse team, of course, when tackling sustainability. In terms of creating those sustainability leaders for the future, how do you go about forming that team? What's the process? What are the skill sets that you're looking for, and the overall outcome that you're aligning when you're looking at that type of diversity?
Yeah, I think, Brian, it hasn't been hard to recruit people to join the team, to be frank, right? I think, as I mentioned, we are a sustainable company, so by definition, we are filtering out people who have an interest in environmental causes and in decarbonizing our energy system. So generally, people are advocates of sustainability in the company. Also, our company is comprised largely of younger people, right? We have a fairly low average age. I'm one of the older people in the company. And so, as we all know, younger people are more passionate and more interested in the sustainability topic generally. So it has been fairly easy to find people who have an interest and can demonstrate that they are working on other initiatives on the side as well, right? That's how passionate they are. In terms of diversity, though, I think it's important for me to emphasize that while we are an energy company, we are essentially focused on engineering and construction, right? That's the sector in which we operate, and this sector is traditionally especially in this region, very male dominated, and so diversity and representation and more gender balance across our organization is something we really emphasize a lot. So we have put in place an inclusion and diversity committee, basically, which is comprised of 7 members from across the company, across all our markets. And their mandate is essentially to look at our policies across the organization and see if there are refinements that we can make that would encourage gender balance and other forms of more diverse representation across the company. So we are, taking very concerted efforts to implement these things across the company.
In terms of sustainability skill sets, though, just diving more into that, the definition of sustainability is always changing. So what are those specific skill sets, whether engineering, construction, what are you looking at in terms of that aspect? Sustainability is one thing, it might be embedded into the organization. But of course, it's not so black and white when you're trying to build that core team that will drive the company's vision forward.
Yeah, look, from my perspective, I mean, Brian, I have a finance background, so I'm not really a sustainability practitioner for my entire career, and I'm transitioning from finance into sustainability, which is interesting. It allows me to have a more, I think, a different perspective than people who have been in sustainability for their entire careers. So I think one of the skill sets that I value personally, and I think is quite relevant and useful in building a sustainability team, is somebody who has a very strong and sort of broad understanding of the regulations and in particular the different frameworks for reporting and analyzing data. I think that is a very important skill set right now. in terms, because it's such a fast evolving space, right? I mean, we've got all sorts of consolidations happening, different bodies coming together. So yeah, I think somebody who has experience in understanding, the different frameworks that exist out there, why you would want to develop a report, why you would need to have a rating, all of those different things. I think that to me is a very valuable experience that I would look for right now in building a team.
Manal, Hassan also, brought in youth, a big aspect of the company. Florence has also touched on it as well. The youth aspect is also massive for COP28 as we go towards implementation. And of course, starting to enter into that workforce for sustainability across multiple organizations. When you look at that challenge, you have some conversations with youth that climate change is such a massive thing to tackle. Where do I start? Manal, what message would you give to youth, of course, at your organization externally, on how to start, how to be a sustainable, leader internally, and what that path forward might look like?
I just want to add to something Hassan said and Florence. In some countries, it's easy for us as a company, a global company, to have inclusion, but not to have diversity, because like in some countries, women will not apply for for our sector. For example, we have factories in Egypt, we have EPC contracts, we have renewable, we have like smart investment, we have digital. So it's very hard to attract women. So what we did is we have currently 5 technical schools across Egypt where we're trying to change the culture. So we have people, it's a Tibet German system where we have girls are enrolled, and now we're seeing a little bit of diversity. So some companies will not be able to meet the target of having women. So I just wanted to clarify this for our people that are listening. It's okay. It's okay. About hiring the employees, one thing that we are all looking for, it's attitude. You can teach them the technical, but you cannot teach them the attitude. So we always want to make sure that they're emotionally intelligent and that they have at least knowledge of what we've done, that they've read about us. We do the onboarding and we just stress on that. So please, when you have people join your company, make sure that they are, able to convey the message correctly and, just have the proper attitude towards it. When it comes to the climate, that I thought of it in the company when I was addressing the finance or the investment team or the tender, the people who go to go for a tender, is by teaching them the biodiversity policy. It's a very difficult policy, so I have to sit there and tell them it's okay, go ahead and take the project, but let us first, after you finish that, let us just plug in certain questions that I will need you to answer. The carbon emission, how are you going to decarbonize it? The safety of the employees in case of force majeure, in case of this. There's a whole list that they have to go through. And then I give them tasks. I said, okay, it's an amazing project. However, the carbon emission here will be an issue. So how are you going to, mitigate this? And the one thing that we gave across all of our company is showing the climate crisis. It's showing them that now the Earth temperature is 1.1, and look at that. I mean, some countries are now having very short winter or short rainfall, and this is because of all the pollution. By teaching them that it's not it's not something for publicity, but it's a reality, and that if we continue like this, the temperature of the Earth is going to reach by 2100 4 degrees, and that will be a crisis. And every time I see something that I read in the news or something innovative that somebody did, I share it with them. I say, remember when we talked about the climate risk? Remember, this is how it's happening. We talk about our assets, how we're going to protect our asset in climate risk, and I tell them there are tools where if you want to build the factory, come and discuss it with me, because I might tell you just move it a little bit to the right or to the left or something with our consultant, because in this area you might find floods or now tools that can help you before you build. So for you to do that, it's like I said, I think maybe we made a little bit of success by talking with everyone, and talking with our partners and our investors as well. As I told you, we are a listed company, is these kinds of discussions, which they can understand that we are doing our best. We are really believing in the cause of climate change and that we are really thinking about it. And this is what we're trying to offer now. We're trying to decarbonize all of our factories. Some factories that we have go back as old as 30 years. So now we're renovating, we're trying to upgrade, we're trying to replace things in our old way. We're trying to plug green procurement. And when our suppliers don't understand it, we go and we help them, we tell them, why don't you try to do it this way? So that it will, decrease the carbon emissions and so on. It's all about transparency and teaching. And climate change is a serious issue. It's a very serious issue. And I'm proud to say that Elsewedy is heading Chapter 0, the Climate Governance Initiative in Egypt. And we're not only, when we talked to CGI, we told them that we are not going to be only teaching the C-suites and the CEOs and the board, but we will be teaching everyone in their companies. And tomorrow will be the first training for the employees in the companies that are member in Chapter 0. So I think we have to all work together. I mean, if somebody's doing something good, like I got a good idea from Florence, so I'm going to probably be implementing it. If someone is doing something great, something good, something that works, don't keep it to yourself. We all got to do it together. So,
Florence, I just want to bring you on that youth aspect. Of course, creating that next generation of sustainability leaders. I mentioned that these conversations, it seems like the challenge is so massive. Where do I start? What is your advice to youth who are entering organizations trying to tackle sustainability, youth within organizations who are trying to push forward on that path ahead?
So it's an excellent question. I mean, first, I would say the soft attributes that I would say youth needs to have is to be able to think in system. Because again, sustainability is so wide. They need to grasp the interconnection between ecological, economic, societal matters, to be able to juggle with time, because in sustainability, the resilience is one of the major attributes. But so you need to keep your vision to the objective, but you may need to adapt your day-to-day task, because you need to adapt to a market change or a change of regulation or a crisis, etc. So being able to keep the eyes on the objective while maybe modifying what you do on a day-to-day basis. And of course, maybe managing the complexity of the business model, depending on the company you are. So systems thinking for me is extremely important. I would then encourage youth to take a step back, and if they're really serious about sustainability, try to understand the business inside out. And we were talking about it in a workshop I've done. Maybe a good solution, and that CSO were actually thinking about what would be the best training for young people who are joining the company and wants to be work in sustainability. The answer was maybe to do a rotation, like to have sometime in logistics, sometime in procurement, sometime in commercial, HR, finance, whatever, because as a CSO or sustainability, you need to understand the constraint and the limit and the business challenges of each and every person of the company. So it's not coming with, let's say, your diploma and what you've learned, but see the reality of things on the ground. And that's why we were thinking, starting with, being aware of this system thinking, and maybe as a company giving the opportunity to a young person to rotate, spending time discovering different business units and challenges and everything would be a great training for young people to start in sustainability.
Hassan, of course, this all requires finance and funding. There's always a set, aside in terms of the sustainability strategy and goals, but what role does finance play? How do you prioritize that in order to upskill your employees? But of course, to make sure that there's investment that's driving your sustainability strategy that may not have come to fruition yet.
Yeah, great question. And also very good answer from Florence to the last question. I really enjoyed it.
That's a good answer.
So I think one of the challenges or the critical challenge with sustainability is there is an inherent tension between a lot of sustainability initiatives and traditional ways of looking at business and conducting business, right? If you want to make sure your supply chain is more green, you need to spend more, and then that's going to erode the margin of your project, right? So that's something we face on a day-to-day. I think that to address that type of situation, there needs to be a clear vision from the top, right? There needs to be a clear strategic direction that, despite the fact that in the short term, this project may not be as lucrative as it was before, in the long term, this project is a better representation of a sustainable project. And this project will be a better way to manage future risks, right? So there's a bit of a perspective shift from just looking at short-term impacts to more long-term impacts, more longer-term risk management implications of taking decisions. So I think it's a shift in perspective, and that is not something that typical corporate finance theory it enables you to do. I think it is evolving. I think the thinking is evolving to be a little bit more holistic, to take a longer-term view, and we are getting there. On a day-to-day, we are experiencing a lot of pressure from our financing stakeholders, both on the debt side and the equity side, to demonstrate that we are being more responsible, and we're conducting our business with strategic and sustainable considerations, right? So that is a way that we are able to actually unlock more efficient sources of capital by being more sustainable. So there's a direct financial impact there as well. So it is evolving. I guess the last example that I can give is the solutions that we provide to businesses, manufacturing companies, etc. They are essentially sustainable energy solutions, but they very importantly lower the costs of our businesses as well, because as we know, solar energy, particularly in this region, is significantly cheaper than other sources of power. So there's one clear example of how you can be sustainable and be more financially efficient in your operation.
30 minutes goes by pretty fast. We have about 1 minute left. I just wanted to go around the room for closing comments. Quick soundbite on COP28, what your expectations are from the outcomes. Manal, I just wanted to start with you for your short soundbite on what you're expecting from COP28.
I'm expecting better policy. I'm expecting green grants, just like they're saying green finance to us, that they are offering as well companies green grants so that the transition can happen more quickly, because it is costly. It's a financial burden, and it affects not only large corporations, but at least the SMEs. They need to find and have access to that. More awareness of the problem. I expect policymakers to actually start discussing more on the maturity of carbon credit in order to encourage investors as well to know that they will be able in new projects or existing projects when they decarbonize to do carbon credits. My expectation as well is that the public becomes more aware of the problem. COP28 result needs to be simplified to make everyone understand it, even those that don't understand what we're talking about, what SDGs is, what does COP do. So I'm expecting the messages to be very, very simple, so that even a 10-year-old, if he reads the results, can understand it.
Florence, I just want to bring you in on that for your final closing comments. COP28, of course, it's a blip in time on a long journey, but what is your expectations in terms of outcomes?
My expectation is a strong legacy. So it's just the start, and indeed I'm expecting a private sector to either embark on the sustainability journey, or if they start during COP28 or because of, or thanks, I would say, to COP28, see this journey going on. Public sector, I think Manal touched upon it. So, we should have a strong legacy for that. And as you were saying as well, as citizen, just be, I'm taking my example of being a retailer and distributor. I'm hoping people will be more demanding with the brand, because there will be these lights, flashing now, the awareness, the education coming. So really challenging. We need to challenge ourselves in a very constructive way. And that's what I'm expecting, from the COP28. So very strong legacy in all departments of private, public, NGO, and the citizen, obviously.
And Hassan, I'll leave it with you with the final closing comment to your quick sound bites on COP28 and the outcomes.
Sure, thanks, Brian. So, being a Dubai-based and kind of homegrown Dubai company, we're very excited that COP is being held in the UAE. I think for us, our expectation is that the countries in the GCC and the UAE in particular will continue showing their leadership in facilitating the energy transition, and they will implement or announce more favorable regulations to permit renewable energy to be more widely adopted by companies and businesses and homes. I think that's really what we're hoping for, is that enabling regulation to allow people to generate their own clean power. That's what we're hoping.
Well, thank you very much, Manal, Florence, Hassan, for joining us today. We appreciate your insights. Thank you all for joining us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, or X now, and of course here on Zoom. We appreciate your time. Please feel free to follow our special guest speakers, of course, for further insights on this topic. And of course, Mashreq's corporate social media channels, where we'll be publishing content harvested from this session. But thank you very much, all of you, and we appreciate your time, and we look forward to having you again on future podcast series and webinars.